We're Malin and Johan, a Swedish couple that have been sailing full-time since 2016. After 3.5 years of sailing, we welcomed our daughter Vera on board. Most recently, we bought a farm in Sweden where we're going to build our dream boat ourselves from scratch.
So here you see her, the beauty.
Welcome aboard and please subscribe for weekly episodes.
I'm on my way to get some plywood for the temporary frames. And this is the place where I'm going to buy that. Fredrikssons Trä. Apparently they still have lunch here, so I'll just have to wait another 10-15 minutes. And this is most probably the place where we're going to get the timber for the hull from as well. So I hope I can have a look at that as well today. See if they have any good grade of timber here. We still haven't fully decided on which type of timber we're going to pick. But right now we're leaning towards pine, good grade pine. Has a bit better rot resistant than spruce, Swedish spruce. Yeah, that didn't go as planned. They only had 7 sheets in stock and I need 25. Of course they had other sheets, but this particular one had a really good price at around $11 per square meter. And then they told me, yeah, but we have another one, but that's $22 per square meter. So quite a difference. So I took the 7 they had, and hopefully they will have more of them next week. I asked if they had any good pine, and they had nothing in stock. And they told me every time they get something, it sells within the hour. Because there's a backlog in everywhere, so it's not very easy to find what we need. So I really hope this won't be a problem. They just told me you have to put an order online of what you need, and then we'll try to get it for you as fast as possible. But we can't give you a date, and or a price. So I'm going to call around a little bit to see if I can find what we need somewhere else. They were not very, helpful at this place. So I found another batch at another place here. Almost the same price. It was a pity I couldn't find all of them in the same exact size and quality. The ones up here on the top has a slightly better quality, and the price was better on these as well. So they cost $40 around per sheet, and these ones were $50 per sheet. So, but at least I found enough so I can start this whole project with the temporary molds, the frames. Yeah, some of these were pretty badly warped, but I will cut them in pieces to build a roughly the size of the mold before I use the router to cut the exact shape. So that should be okay. So yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow to start cutting some of these. So, this is the new tool that we're going to use to cut the temporary frames for the boat. It's a handheld CNC router. Sounds kind of strange, doesn't it? But it uses augmented reality with cameras to triangulate its position on the workpiece. Really cool stuff. And I think we will have a lot of use besides cutting these temporary frames, but during the whole project of building the boat with this machine. The big benefit of this machine compared to a traditional CNC router is that you're not limited in the size of your project, because there's no gantry and no work table that you have to stay within with this machine. And according to the company, Shaper, this machine should be able to cut the temporary frames within specs, within millimeters of really accurate. So I'm really looking forward to try this tool out and see if that's true, because then it will save us a lot of time. It will be more accurate, these temporary molds, and also that we can use this machine inside the boat, on the deck, and different areas during the whole build of the boat. And and by the way, we bought this machine for our own money, so it's not a collaboration or anything like that. But I just thought that it sounded so interesting with this machine. And also they have a 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not happy with the tool. Having a big CNC, traditional CNC router with a big gantry and a large working area might be better, but the prices on those machines are really, really high, and we couldn't afford that. So I think this is a better tool for us, especially since we can use it for so many more things. So the way it works is that it has cameras here that looks on your work surface, and you scan the surface first, and by the way, when you're doing that, you have this type of tape taped out over the whole surface, and the machine sees these different dots and can triangulate its position on the workpiece from that. And then you upload a cutting file to the machine, and you place that cutting file on your workpiece with augmented reality, and then you start cutting. It's like magic. But I haven't tried it yet. I have just looked at a lot of different videos on YouTube on this machine, and it looks almost like magic. So I really hope it's as good as I've seen in some of these videos, and that it will work as well for the project that we're going to use it for. I think the best way for me to show you how it really works is to just start cutting something with it. So let's do that. I started by cutting a sheet of plywood in 6 400mm wide pieces. The drawing of the cutting file shows me the overall dimensions for the mold station. So station 7 is slowly taking shape. This is the largest of all the stations in the whole build, the widest piece. So I thought it was a good idea to start with that, just to see if this CNC router is up to the task with the accuracy on the total width. So now I'll just join all these pieces with this biscuit joiner, I think it's called in English, and of course with some glue. And then it's time to tape this piece up with the Shaper tape and to start, cut it out.
I cut notches for wooden biscuits and then glue everything together like a giant puzzle. The guiding tape for the router is being placed out.
What I'm doing now is that I'm scanning the workpiece or the work area. So the machine can triangulate its position on the workpiece. The way it does that, as I have understand it, is that it uses these dots on the dominant tape to triangulate, measuring the distance, and that way it always knows exactly where it is. So I made a couple of scans now, just to be sure, and I tried a bit differently to how to scan the surface. And I actually added some tape in this direction too, which seemed to help a lot with how accurate the scan were. So now I have placed the cutting file with augmented reality in the machine. So you'll see the cutting file, or where I'm going to cut, on the screen here, and the file is placed on the work surface. So when you're cutting, I will only look at the screen here and guide the machine roughly where it needs to cut, and the machine will do the fine work of placing the router bit exactly where it needs to be. And if I stray off course, it will retract the router bit before I damage the piece, or at least that's what the commercial says. I made a couple of dry runs just to see that I have, to get to know the machine and everything. And it looks like the cutting file is placed on the workpiece within 1 millimeter. And if I can get 1 millimeter accuracy over a span of 4.3 meters, that's really good. So I'm hoping for that. I will start cutting, and this is the first piece, so obviously this will go faster once I get to know everything, how the machine works, and also the best way to set up these pieces. I made it a little bit too tight now, so it was a bit of a work to actually position the cutting file correctly on top of this. So next time I will make the pieces a little bit wider to make it easier to place the cutting file on top of it.
Since the plywood is 18mm fake, I need to cut it in 2 passes to make sure I not overload the machine.
Station number 7 for the boat build is ready, almost. At least we have the outer shape of the hull. And I have to say, this machine is just incredible. It's only off with 1 millimeter on the total width of the whole boat. And that's over 4.2 meters. The height, the total height, it's on the millimeter. Of course, there's other measurement that I have to take. Tomorrow I will add the water line and a center line and take a couple of other measurements to see if the curvature and everything is correct. But the way it looks now, I mean, I was really surprised that it could be this accurate. So this will definitely be a tool that we will have a lot of use for during the rest of the boat build. And this is the largest piece of all the stations in the hull. So if it could make this piece, it will have no problems with the rest of them. So I've been taking a lot of different measurements now on this piece to check the overall dimensions, but also to check the curve. So everything is according to the plan. And every measurement I've been taking it never deviates more than less than a millimeter. So I'm really impressed. This is just fantastic, really. So the plan for today is to try to make this piece a bit more rigid. I bought some timber and we'll make a couple of tests today to find out the best way to make this rigid and stable and still produce as little waste as possible. The way we did it with the plywood worked out really well. This way we only use one sheet of plywood on the largest molds, which is very good. And I hope to do the same with the timber that we need for the legs on this. And it's always nice to produce as little waste as possible. It will save us some money and less waste. Yeah, and after that, I guess it's on to the next one. There's 22 of these in total, so there will be a lot of cutting with the CNC router. And maybe I forgot to mention this, but Ulf, our naval architect that is helping us with the design of the boat, he has produced an SVG file, a cutting file, for all the different stations for the hull. So you see them here. And like I said before, the first piece that we cut here is number 7. And that's the largest and widest of all of these. So the first mold station is finished, and I think it turned out great. And I used some scrap pieces of plywood on it's on the back side now, just to make it a bit more rigid in places. These legs are 1,900 millimeters from the waterline, and that will be the same length on all the different stations originating from the waterline, because the waterline is the only plane on the boat which is straight and level, so all the measurements will be taken from that. So this way we have all the legs at the same length from the waterline. The curvature of the hull on the bottom and also on the deck level will be according to the plan. I also placed this hole here in the center line of the boat and also on the waterline to make it easier when we put all the stations out here. So when all of them are in the correct position, you should be able to look through that hole, through the whole boat really. Maybe I put a cable there to make it easier. It's a straight wire. And one good thing here is that I managed to do this without wasting too much material. Only one sheet of plywood for the biggest mold station. I think that's pretty good. And I was able to use all the scrap pieces, or most of the scrap pieces, just to make the whole thing a bit more rigid. Yeah, so on with the next one. There's only 21 to go, so I hope I can finish all of them within a week or so.
Thank you for watching. These videos are made possible thanks to the support of our patrons. If you enjoy our channel, you can support our production and get in direct contact with us and get all the latest news. See you next week!